We are delighted to welcome Rutendo Ngara to open today's event. Rutendo is an African Indigenous knowledge systems practitioner and transdisciplinary researcher. She is a co-founder of Ancient Wisdom Africa and Ancient Wisdom Foundation, and is an advisor to a number of organizations dedicated to Indigenous knowledge, activism, and the protection of sacred sites and biocultural regions. Holding a BSc in electrical engineering and an MSc in biomedical engineering, Rutendo's transdisciplinary focus centers on bridging Western and Indigenous paradigms, particularly as it relates to medical knowledge systems, science, the economy, the environment, gender, and education. Rutendo, thank you so much for being here. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible?
Perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here across continents and across time zones. And it's a real privilege to open this culture-based climate solutions, because we do know that we're here at a time of great urgency. Urgency not only of climate, but of culture. The question before us is not simply how much carbon can be reduced, but what have we as humanity chosen to cultivate in our ways of life? Culture may be understood as the collective way of living cosmology. It is that which gives meaning to our worldviews in a lived world. Within the social sciences, culture may be described as an integrated pattern of human behavior, the thoughts, the norms, the beliefs, the values, and the material traits that constitute the shared bases of our action. Its roots lie in the Latin cultura, which is cultivation, or also to till. And so from these roots, we remember that culture depends upon our capacity to learn, to remember, to transmit, and to enhance wisdom to generations to come. But perhaps there may be other clues in the natural sciences. Culture is often spoken of as a process and a product of growing living material in a nutrient media for the breeding of animals, the practice of tilling the soil. These scientific framings hold a mirror to us, for they reveal that culture may perpetuate toxicity and pathology, or culture can cultivate harmony, growth, and sustenance. It can poison, or it can nourish. It can diminish, or it can expand. And there are scholars who remind us of this ambivalence. Perhaps we know that culture may be known as a collective programming of the mind. Culture may be seen as a critical determinant of conflict, for it constructs realities, and human beings rarely tolerate challenges to their constructed realities. Catherine O'Dora Hoppus expands this horizon, naming culture as the totality of socially transmitted patterns, our arts, our beliefs, our rituals, and our institutions. It is the food we cook, the music we learn, the festivals and the ceremonies we keep. It is perhaps that which is taken for granted. It is the comfort zone of our ordinary living. And yet, when that culture is threatened, it is experienced as life itself under threat. So much so that our way of life, for our way of life, people have been prepared to kill or be killed. Vandana Shiva warns us of the dangers of monocultures of the mind, when diversity is extinguished and violence takes root. And so that's what brings us today at the Assembly. In this lead up to the Climate Week in New York, in the lead up to Belém COP30, we gather to ask, what do we choose to cultivate? Do we allow monocultures of the mind to dominate our imagination? Or do we choose pluriversal futures that honor coexistence, that honor reciprocity, that honor interdependence, not just with each other, but with the earth? So culture cannot be a soft add-on to climate action. It is not decoration at the edges. It is the root system. It is what shapes how communities live with rivers and with forests, with fire and with wind. It can reproduce harm, or it can be the elementary healer. It can fracture, or it can connect. And I believe this assembly calls us to the latter, to cultivate cultures of repair, cultivate cultures of justice, to cultivate cultures of life. So may we hold this space as a living laboratory of possibility. Let us gather as a chorus of many voices, resonating not in unison, but in harmony, strong because of our differences, powerful because of our resonance. May our time together today ensure that culture is recognized not as the margins, but at the very heart of climate solutions. And may we, through this assembly, help humanity to move from despair to repair, from extraction to relation, and from isolation to solidarity. And with this, and with reverence, with resolve, and with the rhythm of renewal, I feel very pleasured and honored to open this global assembly today. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Rutendo. That was incredibly beautiful. And I think we're all very much inspired by your words and, you know, what you've stated here in the room today. Hi, everyone. I am Gunjan Nanda, the co-founder and director of operations at the Entertainment and Culture Pavilion. And welcome to a Mutirão for culture-based climate solutions. So we've been hearing this word Mutirão for a while now. I'm sure some of you already know what the meaning of the word is. It's a Tupi-Guarani word meaning a collective effort, drawing on the traditional Brazilian concept of communities uniting to achieve a common goal. And the COP30 presidency is promoting a global Mutirão as a key strategy for tackling climate change. So this is going to be a global working session here today to work on real solutions and connect the dots between culture and climate. And first of all, I want to take a moment to thank the Re-Earth Initiative for supporting this event. And earlier this year, we applied to the re-granting cycle with this proposed activation, and we are truly grateful for their trust and financial backing, which has made it entirely possible for us to host this assembly today. Similarly, this event would also not be possible without the support of Climate Generation, and Susan's in the room here today, who are our fiscal sponsors, who have been with us since day one. So thank you very, very much for that. As many of you know, the ENC Pavilion is a platform that creates community-led spaces at global climate and cultural gatherings, activating the power of art, storytelling, and heritage to spark action, shape policy, and center justice. In 2023, we launched the pavilion at COP28 in Dubai. Since then, we've hosted cultural programming across Bangkok, Cali, Baku, LA, London, New York, Bonn, and many more. And now we're heading to MONDIACULT in Barcelona and COP30 in Belém to continue this journey together. And here's how you can connect with us. You can connect with our team and community online. You can scan the QR codes on the screen and follow us on all of these channels where we reveal exciting opportunities for our community to be involved in. So stay tuned. And I would like to say that, you know, because this is a very key moment for us, essentially 2025, essentially being in Brazil for COP30, because this is the very first time the COP30 action agenda formally recognizes culture and cultural heritage under its human and social development track. And that's a breakthrough we've all been working towards. So this gathering, all of you here in the room today, this is our opportunity to build momentum and build it collectively. Today is all about co-creating, and this is where we create a global snapshot of cultural solutions from your communities, take inputs for our final pavilion programming and advocacy push, and create new partnerships rooted in shared purpose. Our agenda for today, so you'll be hearing about key concepts within the sector, hear lightning round presentations from culture climate leaders around the world. After that, you will join breakout working groups, which you would have already selected when you registered for this event, and then a sharing feedback session from those working groups with closing remarks and next steps. And we have an exciting and amazing and incredible visual artist and illustrator who's also been my best friend since my college days, Trisha Srivastava, who will be capturing our collective imagination and work in real time through a live sketch. How cool is that? And Trisha, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you'll be doing today?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Trisha, an illustrator and visual storyteller. My work often involves themes of identity, self-reflection, and life in general, with a focus on symbolism and human connection. I generally work in publishing, game card design, to editorials and packaging. But today I'll be drawing live alongside the session, translating some of the themes we discuss into visuals in real time. I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to seeing how the conversation and art unfolds. So let me just share my canvas with you all and let's start. I hope everyone can see my canvas.
I think what you can also do, all the participants here, is perhaps you will see two tabs on the top, right, on Zoom, and you can switch between the tabs to see where Trisha will be creating this live illustration and switch back to the tab where you will see the presentations as well as we move forward. Amazing. So with that, I want to hand it over to Samuel and Leah from our team to set the stage for us.
Thank you, Gunjan. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we start our plenary session and hear from culture-based climate solutionists around the world, we would like to review a few key policy concepts and how they tie to our upcoming plans at the Entertainment and Culture Pavilion.
So first of all, 2025 marks the 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement, which up to this date remains the most important legally binding climate policy framework. And yet the Paris Agreement does not mention culture directly in any shape or form. However, culture is interwoven across different scopes and subsets of the text.
Yes, let's focus on two articles specifically. Article 7 is dedicated to adaptation, and it establishes the Global Goal on Adaptation, GGA, to enhance adaptive capacity, strengthen resilience, and reduce vulnerability to climate change. Throughout the last 10 years, parties have agreed on various efforts and mechanisms to implement national adaptation plans, NAPs. However, it was not until COP28 in Dubai that parties established several thematic targets for adaptations as part of the UAE Framework for Global Climate Resilience, UFGCR. One of these thematic targets is cultural heritage. As a result, parties have been negotiating what are the key indicators that national governments must consider when implementing their adaptation efforts. Since they were not able to define this list at the previous UNCCC intersessional in Bonn, they are now hoping that this process will be completed in COP30 or before SB64.
But then why do these indicators even matter? Why be so technical?
Well, I mean, Leia, agreeing on indicators is one of the first steps before having a broad implementation strategy and mechanisms in place in order to allocate funding for adaptation effort or decide on a specific law. So parties need to have an evidence-based data that shows that the effectiveness of certain strategies or tools, and in this case, cultural heritage.
That makes sense. So parties need to agree on how they collectively measure this impact before they start doing so in a unified and streamlined way. Another area where countries have agreed to work together is Article 12 of the Paris Agreement, which states parties shall cooperate in taking measures as appropriate to enhance climate change, education, training, public awareness, public participation, and public access to information.
Correct. Article 12 lays the foundation for Action for Climate Empowerment, also known as ACE, and it's the umbrella for the 6 pillars that you mentioned and you can see on screen. These interconnected pillars provide people with the knowledge, skills, and opportunities to participate in climate action, understand its complexities, and contribute to climate resilient societies.
And to operationalise ACE, parties agree on its action plan, which is adopted every 4 years and sets out short-term, clear and time-bound activities in the 4 priority areas of the work programme and across the 6 elements of ACE just mentioned. Furthermore, each party has national focal points dedicated to overseeing ACE-related efforts. These designated contacts are public and available on the UNFCCC website and are actually a great way to get engaged or involved with efforts taking place in your own country.
Exactly. Despite ACE being in its implementation phase and its 4-year action plan being well underway, it is important to understand the ways in which culture is embedded within its 6 pillars and can be leveraged to activate the principles of ACE. To be clear, culture has not yet officially been defined within the ACE agenda, but is holistically an integral part. Culture-based climate solutions are key to spread public awareness, support public participation, or have public access to information, among other pillars.
Yes, and that's why ACE is increasingly collaborating more with cultural leaders and practitioners. For instance, in June during SB62, the ENC held a workshop with the ACE Youth Hub on how culture as a framework to drive action for climate empowerment. You can see some of those photos there. But let's take a step back now and see beyond parties and national governments, because they are not the only ones responsible for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. In 2016, the year following the adoption of the Paris Agreement in COP21, COP22 took place in Morocco, where the Marrakesh Partnership for Global Climate Action, the MPGCA, was formally launched.
And why does this matter? Well, because under the leadership of the climate high-level champions, the Marrakesh Partnership supports the implementation of the Paris Agreement by enabling collaboration between governments and non-party stakeholders, such as cities, regions, businesses, investors, civil society, including youth, indigenous people, and local communities to act on climate change. So basically, all those entities, groups, and individuals that are not legally bound by the Paris Agreement, who also want to chime in and contribute towards its implementation, can do so through joining the Marrakesh Partnership and its initiative. And by agreeing to create such an umbrella, the UNCCC is able to build the capacity to engage in these partnerships and oversee such efforts. That's why in recent years, the Secretariat has been able to launch sectoral engagement initiatives such as the Entertainment for Culture, Climate Action, ECA, Sports for Climate Action, or the Fashion Charter for Climate Action, which further recognize the active role of creative industries in both reducing their emissions and raising awareness about climate change.
And we're very happy to announce that next year, in light of the 10th year anniversary of the Marrakesh Partnership, the Entertainment and Culture Pavilion will host a cultural stocktake in Morocco as part of its upcoming Regional Workshops Strategic Plan. What's a stocktake, you might wonder? Well, in the UNFCCC's terms, a stocktake is a collective review process that assesses progress made toward climate goals, identifies gaps, and highlights opportunities to increase ambition and action. In 2023, COP28 did a stocktake, the global stocktake, of the Paris Agreement, and culture was also nowhere to be found.
Yeah. So that's why next year we want to do a cultural stocktake to assess the contribution of the creative industry and the cultural sector to the goals of the Paris Agreement and identify where meaningful progress is being made and where greater collective action is still needed. This project will bring together non-party stakeholders, artists, creative, cultural practitioners, youth, and indigenous leaders from both local and global communities. And the timing is great because at COP30, the Marrakesh Partnership will be deciding its next 5-year plan and considering its results so far.
And so far, COP30 is already looking very promising when it comes to culture-based climate action, because for the first time, the COP presidency is putting culture front and center in its action agenda. Launched by the presidency in its fourth letter to parties, the COP30 action agenda mobilizes voluntary climate action from civil society, businesses, investors, cities, states, and countries to intensify emission reductions, climate adaptation, and the transition to sustainable economies as set out in the Paris Agreement. This year, culture has been recognised as a key agenda item as part of the 30 key objectives of COP30. Objective 19, which is culture, cultural heritage protection and climate action, come under one of the 6 thematic axes of the agenda, which is fostering human and social development.
Yes, the human and social development axis also includes other priorities such as health, food, education, and jobs creation. And it's very important to identify synergies among stakeholders leading climate solutions at the intersection of those themes. And that's why one of the breakout groups today is dedicated to this purpose. So, in this presentation today, we reviewed some key concepts such as the global goal on adaptation, action for climate empowerment, the markets partnership, and the COP30 action agenda. And those are going to be central in our upcoming E&C plans. This year, before COP30, we will be attending and hosting various events at MONDIACULT, the world's largest cultural policy conference convened by UNESCO every 3 years. And in 2025, the conference has identified culture and climate action as a key theme, recognizing that artists, cultural professionals, and practitioners offer new perspectives and solutions to bridge the gap between scientific knowledge and public engagement, leading to more effective and inclusive climate actions.
And in almost 60 days, we will kick off our second integrated Entertainment and Culture Pavilion in the Blue Zone in partnership with Climate Live, where we will co-host 10 days of programming events showcasing the power of culture at the epicenter of climate negotiations. But this is just the beginning, because as we mentioned earlier, we are also going to start hosting regional workshops and culture-based climate solutions accelerators worldwide, starting in Morocco next March 2026.
And based on the success of our activations at Bonn this year, we can already anticipate that we will come back to Germany again in June for SB 66, where UNCCC brings together parties every year for their intersessionals. The location for COP31 has not been officially announced, and it's discussed to be either in Australia or Turkey, but as our actions in the past 2 years demonstrate, our presence goes well beyond the COP Blue Zone, and we hope to be doing more of these virtual events as well. So thank you for joining us again, and back to you, Sania.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Leah. Before I move on, Gunjan, I want to stay accountable, so please start the timer. You'll shortly see a 2-minute timer show up on screen, and I'll tell you why that is. Okay, let's start it. Let's see if I can introduce this in 2 minutes. Okay, up next, we have a special rapid fire plenary where you will hear from leaders around the world, and each of them will take 2 minutes to answer one question. What is a climate or culture-based solution that you have led or witnessed in your community? We will keep adding more information about each presenter's project in the chat, and a few days after the meeting, we will also share a list of all organizations that presented in the plenary, so don't worry if you don't catch every single link and all pieces of information. That said, get ready to hear about lots of innovative, impactful solutions. We hope these will spark new partnerships and ideas. That's my 2 minutes. First up, we have Farhana Yamin.
Hi, thank you. Thanks so much. What I wanted to say is that art, culture, artists, our creative sectors have been part of the evolving climate regime for many, many years, starting well before Paris. I myself have collaborated with poets and artists, but really the coming together of the kinds of spaces that ENC is now taking forward with the collaboration of so many others really started in earnest at Glasgow, where there was an intense desire for movement building, for different kind of spaces than the COP allowed, and an intense desire for the COP process itself to be imaginatively recreated, re-envisaged, for us to think about how we treat each other, as Rutendo said, the food, music, stories, myths that we tell ourselves and about others is really what's key to creating a kinder, more compassionate future. So I hope, as I can't run through the slides quickly, in Glasgow, we established a village for over 100 people, many artists, performance artists, Indigenous peoples, shared their stories, their spiritual values, their culture through firesides, pantomimes, pilgrimages, walks. We also took many artists to Glasgow itself to try and introduce visual arts. I think you will see on the screen Loss and Damage, which was literally lighting up in words that were being excluded in the text. This led to a lot of culmination of what we called COP, Culture COP, which was in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh. Many of the people in this call are part of that effort. And I think that really helped establish a different way of ensuring culture, heritage, the entertainment industry, the creative sectors more broadly were engaged and were able to join forces, join hands beyond the individual artists and people who'd been doing events, and really make a big effort. And I'm so delighted. I'm not sure, I can't quite see the time here, but I'm so delighted that ENC, amongst others, has taken that effort forward. We had a Culture COP assembly in, I think, October, just before Sharm el-Sheikh. And I hope that this will become an annual feature, an online feature, as well as an in-person feature. And I wish everyone really, really a fantastic opening and look forward to hearing all the different things that are now going on. So, Sanya, back to you. I think my 2 minutes may be up. And
All
yeah,
right.
we'll
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll keep dropping links in the chat so you can find more information about our presenters. Next up, we have Pooja Tilwawala. Pooja, I know you're here.
Can you?
There you are. Yeah, hi.
Okay. Hi, everyone. And thank you to the ENC team for the invitation, for everybody who's made ENC possible since day one. As a co-founder and now board member, I'm so impressed by how far the team has come. Great job, everyone. Well done. And seeing the huge community that's come from this. I'm speaking as the founder and executive director of Youth Climate Collaborative, a global youth-led organization providing an ecosystem of support that sustains young climate leaders and advances their initiatives through skills building, access, and community. Today, we're thrilled to announce the launch of our climate media training. Woo! Are you ready to take your climate story global? From New York Climate Week in New York City to the comfort of your home to COP30 in Brazil, the Hybrid Climate Media Training Fellowship is here to equip people of all ages with the skills to pitch op-eds and land interviews, build campaigns that go viral, combat mis and disinformation, and use creative storytelling to shift culture and challenge the fossil fuel industry. You'll learn directly from journalists, content creators, policy experts, and climate justice leaders in virtual and in-person sessions across multiple languages. So definitely sign up today. Our first media training 2-day session is focused on Africa climate media on the 17th and 18th. And then we have an in-person one on the 21st in New York City of this month. And then on the 9th of November in Belém, and a content creator field trip on the 16th. So learn more at the site. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Daniel Cervenka.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here, and thank you to the whole ENC team for holding building this beautiful space and bringing everybody together. I'm here to introduce a project. I'll try to do this with one single slide and a little bit of talking. But I'll start with the statement. Irina Bokova, the former UNESCO Director General, said, "Culture is not a luxury. It's the soul of sustainable development." And as we've learned today during this presentation, we know that that's true. But culture makers are already spearheading action, yet they remain siloed, underfunded, disconnected from policy and from finance. As we've also learned, there is no global climate policy text to date that references culture and heritage, and we need to change that. But how can we do so? We need to be able to measure it, to be able to improve it. We need to know what is available, what kind of support we can provide. And that is where the culture map comes in. What you're looking at right now is a set of tools that were designed and together launched a project called the Culture and Climate Map together with Sophie and Samuel. And our intention and our vision was to leverage these tools to map out the ecosystem, to create a holistic ecosystem map of culture and climate-based solutions, and provide new ways of seeing and create an evidence base that would allow us to really understand the breadth and the impact that it can have, and then use that as an evidence base to further support the policy designs to be truly evidence-based. So what you're seeing right now is one of the ways of seeing. We map the ecosystems, we collect information about organizations and make them accessible through a list, through a map, and also through a knowledge graph. And what you're seeing on the screen is a knowledge graph that also highlights the little lines between the dots. Those are synergies. We've built a metric called the Synergy Index, which helps us understand the relationship between different stakeholders, solutions, resources, and components of this ecosystem to, again, strengthen our evidence base that we can provide to the policymakers to make more informed decisions. So please, it would be a pleasure if you learn more. And this is it. My time is up. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, thank you. Over to Eje Aisoy.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's the Policy for Climate, which is the world's largest and most diverse network of creatives dedicated to climate action. We unite more than 6,000 members across 90 countries, from freelancers to global agencies who share one conviction, which is creativity is not neutral, it shapes the future. Because advertising, PR, and marketing don't just reflect culture, they actively shape it. They influence what people buy, what they value, what they demand, and demand drives markets and policies and politics. Up until now, the creative industry has mostly been measured by its small operational footprint, but the far greater impact actually lies in the service emissions. So service emissions are greenhouse gas emissions that come from the services related activities rather than physical goods or production. So greenhouse gas emissions enabled through the clients we choose, the campaigns we design, the strategies we deliver. I think we can safely say that creative industry has a big role in creating this mess we're living in, driving overconsumption and pollution. But if creativity can drive pollution, it can also scale solutions. Yet, across the global climate standards, the frameworks that guide how businesses operate, there's currently no way to distinguish between a service provider driving emissions up or driving them down. That is why Creatives for Climate has signed a 2-year-long MAU with Oxford Net Zero. Together, we are pioneering the UN-backed service emissions framework to bring clarity within and beyond the sector, and to help agencies align their creative work with climate goals. And at COP30, we will launch a blueprint and a practical toolkit on what it means to transition. So we invite you to join us in this mission through our hub, the Ethical Agency Alliance, and our brand partnerships. To end really quickly, the creative industry is filled with brilliant, passionate people with the skills to imagine and design new future and culture. And we invite you all to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Lucy Stone.
Hi, everyone. Fantastic to be part of this incredible ecosystem working on culture. I founded and lead an organization called Climate Spring, who as we've heard, was founded to really try and shift the conversation on climate with popular culture. And we focus particularly on the role of film and TV, but we also support some initiatives in the literary space with books and audio. So as we've heard, we're losing the story on climate now, because for a long time the role on culture was really around trying to communicate perhaps the problem, the science, the complexities of science, and why it's so urgent. We're now needing to really urgently hold a light and change the narratives on justice and accountability. Who's really responsible for the slow progress? And also on the transition that we're already in, that needs to be a just transition. But perhaps most importantly, the role of culture is really envisaging the future and where it looks and where we could be and what would winning look like. So how do we do that at Climate Spring? We work kind of in the intersection between the streamers and the broadcasters, so Netflix and Channel 4 and all the broadcasters making popular content with a heavy focus on scripted drama, because that is still very popular content that people watch to be entertained, not just to be informed and educated. And we work with some of the leading producers and screenwriters who create the shows that we all love and watch. We provide seed funding and support for new shows and ideas, and then we consult and support those shows and how they tell this climate stories. And the thing that it's worth remembering is that a story doesn't always have to look like a climate story. It doesn't have to mention climate. If we're talking about the system failure and what the solutions are and what responding to it looks like, the stories are everything. They imbue everything that we live in. So my time's up there. You can come to our website for more information, but thank you for holding this space.
Thank you, Lucy. Up next, we have Kumi Naidu.
Hi, greetings, everyone. I want to focus on the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty Initiative, where I serve as president at the moment, which is an initiative that is a transformative cultural and political shift. The treaty, now 20 countries as I speak, that have endorsed the idea to address the core cause of climate change, which is 86% of what drives climate change is our addiction to oil, coal, and gas, something that the COP process has ignored repeatedly because of the dominance of fossil fuel interests at the COP itself. But why is the Fossil Fuel Treaty a culture-based initiative? The treaty challenges the dominant narratives that equates fossil fuels with progress. It redefines development around justice, health, and ecological balance. It draws from cultural traditions of disarmament, like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, as well as indigenous worldviews that see fossil fuel extraction as a violation of land identity and intergenerational responsibility. By building a global norm that makes fossil fuels socially and politically unacceptable, the treaty is not only about policy, it's about cultural transformation. In essence, the Fossil Fuel Treaty works by reshaping what humanity considers ethical, just, and possible for our collective future. I want to just quickly say that many of you are already part of it, and some of you are not, and I'm really keen for you all to join, which is that on the second initiative is building the global activism movement, which was launched in South Africa with 89 countries last year. The second global convening is in Salvador. Many of you are already going to be there. Those of you who are not, you're warmly invited to participate. To end, harnessing the power of arts and culture alone will not deliver our salvation from the climate crisis and the intersecting crises, but failing to harness the power of arts and culture almost will guarantee that we will fail. Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody who's been doing such amazing work and all the stories we've already heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumi. Over to Kamori Osnanda.
Thank you. Joining from Thailand, I'm speaking on behalf of the Thailand delegation to COP. Because I'm born in Bangkok, I was born in a very dynamic city with skyscrapers and also centuries-old architecture. And so we were just known as Venice of the East so recently in history. And with rapid urbanization, by 2050, the majority of Bangkok will be submerged underwater if actions are not taken. So my climate solution through culture-based climate action is a very simple one, and I primarily work with documenting elders and ancestors who work with mother of pearl craftsmanship or sustainable craftsmanship in textiles that revolve around Thai culture. The picture you see here is of a Thai royal craftsman. His name is Jakit, and he works with rattan and mother of pearl, which is a craft that has survived for more than 200 years. Because of his nature-based solution, the craft will survive around 200 more. And I think documentation is a very important tool to combat cultural erasure and the erasure of cultural memory despite the current climate adversity. So if you like to read my work, you're very much welcome to just Google my name because I do cover a lot of culture-based climate action documentation. And yeah, thank you so much for the invitation to speak here today, and I hope to learn more from everyone here. Thank you. Passing it back to you, Sanya.
Thank you, Kamori. Next up, we have Susan Phillips.
Good morning. Such an honor to be here in this room of beautiful and brilliant people. I'm from Climate Generation, where we ignite and sustain the ability of youth, educators, and community members to act on the systems that perpetuate the climate crisis. One of the things that we do is we weave storytelling through all of our programming. Mainstream climate reporting all too often involves astronomical numbers that are hard for people to wrap their heads around, like the need to plant trillions of trees, or images that feel removed from our daily lives, like polar bears floating on ice caps, or center white savior patriarchal narratives like a technocrat who will single-handedly engineer us out of a disaster. These stories create overwhelm, frustration, and detachment. And so we use personal storytelling to help people connect on an individual level to the climate crisis and inspire them to want to join us and take action in their local communities. We do this by hosting workshops where we guide folks through a series of question prompts that help them articulate their personal connection to the climate crisis and write their climate story. Thanks so much for inviting me to join you.
Thank you, Susan. All right, let's hear from Elena Ramos.
Hello all. Thank you for the invitation, ENC team. I'm Elena Ramos. I'm a Brazilian cultural manager, and since 2022, I led the cultural articulation area at Amazônia de Pé, a movement that advocates for the protection of the Amazon rainforest and its people. To achieve this, we mobilize people through advocacy, cultural communication, and education. And we understand culture here as expression, as way of life, but also as a powerful strategy for climate justice and democracy. I'll share two cultural-based climate solutions projects that we are working this year. One is Virada Cultural Amazônia de Pé. That is a week of decentralized actions that we organize every year in the Amazon Day. So through cultural events like film screening, debates, festivals, workshops, and more, we raise the voice that what happened in the Amazon affects the whole world. This month, we are in the 4th edition with more than 300 events already mapped, and that will happen all around Brazil. You can see in one of the links. And the second project is Climate is Culture. We just launched it this week, an accessible publication on the connection between culture and climate to be shared in cultural centers, in schools, and at COP30. So this publication is a result of a gathering that we organized in February this year in the Amazon with artists, cultural managers, and climate activists. And this project we did together with Suraras do Tapajós, Women's Associations, and People's Falas Projects. Beyond this project, Amazônia de Pé is active in many other fronts. We are working with mobilization and political advocacy. So if you would like to know more about our work, please let's keep in touch. I'm happy to share further. Thank you, and let's go.
That was perfect. Thank you. Up next, we have Alison Tickle.
Hello, thank you so much. Thanks. It's lovely to see lots of old friends here and new ones. I'm Alison Tickle, founder of Judy's Bicycle. I'm here as the convener of We Make Tomorrow, Culture at the Heart of Climate Action, a global campaign bringing together artists and artivists, creative designers, cultural knowledge and heritage keepers united in climate action. We're taking to COP30 signatures representing at least 20,000 voices from culture. We want to show that we're here, we're already doing the work, we're already helping, but we need their help. We're calling on governments and policymakers to place culture at the heart of climate action and climate policy. Immediately, we want culture to be integrated fully into the UNFCCC's second global stocktake. We need this rapid, urgent and systemic cultural change to uphold the rights and knowledge of communities and leverage the transformative power of art, creativity, cultural memory and practice to accelerate climate action. And around the world, it's happening everywhere. But we need that formal recognition, not just in the global goal of adaptation, to protect and support our work. So We Make Tomorrow is a growing collaborative of networks and organisations building on previous culture-led mobilisations since COP26, including some of you here, thank you. The signature includes the map, the Culture for Climate map mentioned by Daniel. Our approach is part of the COP30 hashtag Global Mutirão. It's culture first, it's unbranded and open, it's partner-led and it's collaborative and transparent. Your support really matters. For policymakers, policy needs us more than anything right now. We need these signatures to really call for change, to bring us in. For culture, that's solidarity and community and climate action across heritage, arts and creative industries. And for you, joining the global call ensures your work is part of a movement that speaks with collective strength at the world's most important climate talks this November. We are all part of a global cultural movement and we're here for one another. So please join us, sign the global call, share it with your networks, and let's create the world we long for. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Rizwan Shahryar Sumit.
Hello, everyone. I am Rizwan Shahryar Sumit, a film director and producer from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I am also representing the UNFCCC ECA Film and TV Steering Committee. So today I would like to present to you an initiative called Joler Chobi Matir Chobi. It is a 2-day, entirely community-driven traveling film festival that brings cinema to rural Bangladesh. In our inaugural editions in vulnerable coastal districts like Potuakhali and Satkira, we featured films like Are You Listening?, No Man's Land, Salt in Our Waters, all shot in communities at the front lines of the climate crisis. These films highlight themes such as loss and damage, adaptation and resilience, but of course the dreams and aspirations of those who are affected, allowing the audience to see themselves on the big screen for the first time. This is incredibly empowering and a great starting point for dialogue. Our typical audience is usually 1,000 to 1,500 people, and they approach the festival with a cinema paradiso like zeal and fervor. Unlike traditional climate education programs, our initiative uses films as a visual, emotional, and accessible medium to engage rural audiences. Our post-screening dialogues use entertainment as a gateway, emphasizing listening to and understanding the community's perspective rather than being prescriptive. The initiative is very cost-effective and scalable. The traveling format allows maximum impact with minimal infrastructure, making it replicable across different regions within Bangladesh and even in other countries. So we got our initial funding from Film Independent, and now we are looking for additional partners for our next iterations. And we have a really fun behind-the-scenes documentary, which we would love to share with you. If anyone is interested, feel free to drop a line to me. I'll drop my email address in the chat box. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, thank you. Up next, we have Max Herman.
Hi, thank you for having me today. It's a real pleasure to be with everyone in this call. I'm the founder of a company called The Green Shot. I used to work in entertainment, and I've seen firsthand the impact any kind of productions could have and the way that productions and producers were tackling it. So we built a solution that really connects cost with carbon footprint. And the goal is to demonstrate that making sustainable decision on any kind of production or events can lead to economical saving, money saving. To build this, we built a software that is available to anyone worldwide, where we are able to collect data at scale from either people to our app, interfaces with whatever softwares are being used by the company producing the event, ledgers, so that is basically accounting data and whatnot, utilities and sensors. We gather all of this raw data and we map it then with the reportings that either you would need, your organization would need, but moreover, this builds then a basis to have tailored knowledge and expertise on how and where can you save impact on your production. This tool is being used across US, Europe, other parts of the world, and is available to massive Hollywood productions, but also very small and tiny events, music events or whatnot. So I was very pleased to be invited here today. And if you want to know more about us, please reach out to the link Samuel did put in the chat a minute ago. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you. Over to Nivedita Bansal.
Hi everyone. I didn't know we could prepare slides for this session. So I'll just briefly introduce myself. So I am executive editor and co-founder at Talk Dharti to Me. Dharti means earth in Hindi, and Talk Dharti to Me is a youth-led magazine based out of Mumbai and India. We are a fully remote setup, and we work with youth across India and abroad to tell the story about climate change in India. We don't just tell stories, we actually handhold all of our volunteers through art, graphic design, copywriting, scientific writing, and we make science communication the core of what we do in our capacity building work. And we take people's different skills and we help them to be the next generation of climate communicators. And a lot of organizations have impacts in hundreds and thousands. Unfortunately, we work with people for really long periods of time and we really build their capacity. A lot of our volunteers have gone on to pursue higher education in climate, and a lot of our leaders have continued their involvement and interest in climate through our work. One of the projects we're working on this year is to bring a climate library to COP30. We want to partner with organizations that curate movies, books, games, posters, and all sorts of climate media. We want to showcase these, media outputs at our climate library, and we want to make them available for sale and for display. So if you are interested in collaborating with us, do reach out to us. I will leave my LinkedIn in the chat so you can connect with me. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
All right, over to Giovanna Di Giacomo.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity of talking with all of you. I'm here I am an independent researcher and curator based between Brazil and the Netherlands, working on international exchanges at the intersection of art and climate. I am here today to present you to Projeto Encher, which was an artistic residency between Brazil and the Netherlands on sea level rise, which took place last year. And it connected artists, scientists, and communities. And it was possible to take place thanks to the support of the Dutch Embassy in Brazil. The main goals of the residency were to raise awareness to sea level rise and at the same time contribute to climate justice. The residency took place at Instituto Pra Comum in the city of Santos, which is a city that is extremely vulnerable to rising sea levels in Brazil. And the reason why this project was done in collaboration with the Netherlands is because the Netherlands is a global leader in water solutions. And at the same time, a lot of these solutions dialogue with ancestral knowledge from traditional communities from Brazil. So what I find really special about this project is that in order to connect with the stories of people that have to deal with are most vulnerable to sea level rise, the artists Annie Vera Vem and Julian Campos, they used embroidery and collage workshops in a way to hear the stories of the communities. And the works that were created together with them together formed an installation that was placed at the outside area of the public aquarium of Santos and reached around 90,000 people. So due to the success of this first edition of the residency, we are looking for ways to expand this project. So I am really open to hear any advice or recommendation of any of you. I will also add my contact in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Over to Jill Cubitt.
Hi, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here and thanks to the organizers. I am Jill Cubitt. I am the co-founder of Dear Tomorrow and also Our Kids Climate. Dear Tomorrow invites people to write a letter to someone that they love living in the year 2050. This can be a child, a grandchild, a family member, or our future selves. And this process allows people to express very deep emotions, imagine a thriving future, commit to taking action, and we help to build community through these stories. I think over the years, our most important insight has been that the love and care for children today and for future generations is an incredibly powerful motivator. We had a study, Dear Tomorrow was submitted into a major global study with more than 60,000 people across 63 countries. And we repeatedly come to the top in terms of the interventions that help support climate policy. And so that's been a real insight that we have learned through the process. Our work is very deeply emotional, and I wanted to share an excerpt from the collection. I'll try to be quick and wrap up. But this is from My Darling Girls, written in 2019. It is evident through our greed and unawareness that your future, the future of children everywhere, as well as the natural world, is in peril. This is happening before I allowed myself to feel it. It is a deep heartbreak, so deep and dark that it aches through my limbs. And yet, I know that letting myself feel this heartbreak is an important step. I can be brave enough to wake up. We have around 6,000 messages from more than 50 countries in our collection, and we're currently working in the US, the UK, South Africa, Eastern Europe, and Colombia. And we're about to launch a new travel exhibit. So we will be at New York Climate Week. You can find us at the Javits Center and also at Pier 57. I'll put my information into the chat, and I'd love to connect with all of you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sandra Proofer. Sandra, you're on. Yeah.
Yes, I'm very delighted to join you from Bonn, Germany, and I'm an international media professional and impact consultant. But I'm here on behalf of the Mother Earth Project. I'm the European coordinator, and this nonprofit organization was founded in 2015 in the US by Barton Rubenstein, artist, scientist, and environmentalist, and his family, and young climate activists. And they want to use art as a catalyst of for change and climate action. And so it started out with the Parachute for the Planet project. And you see some of these parachutes. So these are basically play parachutes, 4 meter in diameter. And they started this in the US, but wanted to spread this across the world. And so now you have more than 4,200 parachutes around the world. I mean, for example, the one that you see on the slide is from Zimbabwe.
All right, up next we have Larry Muffet.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm with Rise for Climate Belgium, which is a grassroots citizen movement co-founded in 2018 by the Belgian singer-songwriter Getch. Music and culture have always been present at our climate rallies, our events. Getch himself has written and performed climate songs. We've invited many artists to join us, other singer-songwriters, musical groups, dancers, flash mobs, slam poets, stand-up comedians, sculptors, visual artists. In 2021, we organized a music festival called Artists Rise for Climate. We chose the date of 31 October, the day before COP26, and the location directly across from the European Parliament in Brussels. And thanks to Getch's connections, we were able to invite 12 other musical artists, which you can see on the screen. They were all paid a modest fee because we do feel it's important that artists be compensated for their work. Each one played a short 10 or 15-minute set. The performances were great. We had close to 1,000 people attending at the beginning. Unfortunately, it rained so heavily that many people had to leave early. But despite that, we still believe in the concept of artivism, using artistic expression to reach a wider audience, to raise awareness about climate change and inspire collective action. This past Sunday, we organized another cultural event called Sing for the Living, consisting of a participatory choir with hundreds of people singing the African song Shosholoza, the song Sing for the Climate, inspired by Bella Ciao. It was a very emotional experience, followed by speeches, a performance by a female Brazilian percussion and dance troupe, and a Latino DJ. But we saw a lot of people leave after the choir, so it's really tricky to find the right formula and strike the right balance between entertainment and activism to encourage and maintain engagement. But we're planning now a climate film festival. I'm inspired by Rezwan's traveling film festival. I believe we can learn from each other, and I look forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Lucimara Letelier.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lucimara Letelier, Director of Regenera Museu. And basically, we are advancing regenerative and sustainable development within museums and culture. We are launching the first graduate course in culture and climate in Brazil at the Museum of Tomorrow in November 30, when the COP starts, together with partners. And the solution I bring you today is museums as territories of regeneration, weavers of the future. I developed a pioneer research in the UK to investigate how museums can adopt regenerative practices to address social and environmental collapse. We produce evidence and literature on two fronts. One is museums who were born regenerative, such as eco-museums. The other is to encourage museums to adopt regenerative practices with evidence from Manchester museums, Australian museums, and others. Together, they show how museums can weave heritage, biodiversity, and equity into climate action and territory regeneration. Through consultancy, coach, training, climate leadership, festivals, and conferences, we try to leverage this work. Museums can heal places, restore ecosystems, nurture care, activate communities' biocultural wisdom, adopt an ecological and decolonial mindset, foster a generation of regenerators, and restore the connection between humans and nature, reimagine futures through qualitative growth. You can learn more at regenerativemuseums.com. Looking ahead at COP, Regenera Museu is part of a steering committee of a collective mobilizing eco-museums, culture, and heritage for climate justice, regeneration, and community empowerment. This initiative is called Weavers of the Future. You can find in the website with 3 main goals: a collective digital exhibition showcasing community-driven projects. It's open, the call is open until September 30th. An international online meeting, it's called Eco Livre, connected to COP30 in November 4th and 5th. And the agreement that we're going to present a policy document with recommendations to cultural institutions on how they can work with regenerative practice that will be presented at COP30. Join us at Regenera Museu, regenerativemuseums.com, and Weavers of the Future project. Thank you for this. We love the EC Culture Pavilion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lucy Neal.
Hello, I'm really honoured to talk about Walking Forest, which is a 10-year living artwork made of trees and a woodland and a Camino walk culminating in 2028. This was an action of ours a few years ago in Coventry. The Walking Forest is inspired and draws on forest ecosystems and the often quite hidden stories of those standing up for a livable earth, especially women. Walking Forest connects past and future, and it mirrors the 10 years it took to fight for women's rights over 100 years ago with the activist campaigns of today. So it will connect the planting of an intentional woodland that will honour local and global earth defenders with a 140-kilometre walking route, a Camino of courage across the UK to connect to the last standing suffragette tree. So the seed at the heart, this is a very tiny seed, at the heart of Walking Forest is a seed, and there are many seeds, of a pine tree planted over 112 years ago by the suffragette young woman called Rose Lamartine Yates, and also the imaginary seeds of intention and story to act and stand up for change of global earth defenders today. And here is a tree that we have propagated from Rose's tree, which will be in the woodland. And we think that Walking Forest serves the Mutirão by creating a regenerative inner and outer journey at such a time of uncertainty. It can create a place for grief and courage and to plant agency for action. And we collaborate with partners, individuals and communities across the globe, including attending several COPs, some of you we've met there. Walking Forest calls to courage at such a time. And we're also founders of Culture Declares Emergency, and we would love you to walk with us and join us. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Up next, we have Tori Stevens.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Tori Stevens. I am the founder of Imagine 2200, Climate Fiction for Future Ancestors, an initiative out of Grist magazine. Grist is an independent nonprofit media organization that many of you all love and know of. If you don't, you should check it out. And as a news organization, we really do reach many different types of people on the policy sector, activists, startups, all sorts of people. But one thing we knew we weren't reaching were people who love fiction. You know, of course, there's people in the policy sector that read fiction, but there's a lot of people out there that get their full orientation from fiction, from speculative fiction, and they care about the environment. And so we launched Imagine 2200 as a way to bring them in to the Grist ecosystem. And that matters because people find their sense of possibility and what's possible through this way. Like, not everyone is up on the news and is really interested in news. Actually, some people are kind of turned off from it, and yet they still want to be a part of the environmental and climate discussion. And so many of you all know that because you're practitioners of culture and arts. And so we launched Imagine 2200 to kind of insert ourselves into the fictional space and be a part of these conversations. And what we found is that there's a vibrant ecosystem, folks like yourself, who are really tapped in and want to read the stories that we're publishing. We've been publishing stories for 5 years now. We have about 60 stories that folks can read, and they run the gamut. And another thing that we learned when doing this is that, you know, many folks, and I've said this earlier, like, they're not driven by these like anxiety news stories that are about the climate, but they're kind of like fill you with dread. What they want are climate solutions. They want to know more about frontline communities, justice-oriented kind of frames and information. And so we've been trying to do that through Imagine 2200. The stories are hopeful, they're intersectional, they're often written by folks from the global south or even just like outside of the United States, excuse me. And so we're presenting that information and making it accessible. And what we found is that we can also connect people to the solutions that are out there. So really appreciate your time. That was really quick. I gotta go. Next person's up. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Tori. Up next, we have Holly Harwood.
Hi, everybody. So nice to be here and be in community with such a vibrant global ecosystem. And thank you, E+C, for hosting this space. I am Holly Harwood. I am representing the Global Youth Center today, and I'm basically wanting to share with you this declaration that we're bringing with us to COP30 this year as a strategic intervention to make sure that youth voices are heard from all across the world. So this conference happened in Belo Horizonte in Brazil in April, and we convened 500 voices in this legal document that was later presented to the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, Marina Silvia, which is a huge stakeholder in the COP30 negotiations, who's a very prominent figure in Brazil. And we are trying to work with UMFG, which is a university there, to really amplify this declaration to its highest potential. And so we're very focused on making strategic collaborations with other partners, working in advocating for youth inclusion, culture-based traditional knowledge solutions, nature-based solutions, as we have 5 thematic areas. I'm going to read you guys off 5 of them, and we're going to drop the PDF of the document if you want to read further. First section is climate finance and accountability, youth leadership and participation, climate justice and equity, sustainable youth livelihoods, traditional knowledge and nature-based solutions, and lastly, sustainable cities and just transition. So 1/3 of the participants were Brazilian directly. So this is a reflection of these communities that are going to be at COP as well. So if you have any insights or leads, please feel free to email me. I believe I can put it in the chat, and I look forward to seeing you there, and safe travels to whoever's going.
Thanks, Holly. Next, we have Rojan Lynn Frey.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Nice to see familiar faces. I'm here to present Kulturklima, which is a joint project of the Regional Association of Westphalia, Lippe and Rhineland in Germany, funded by the Ministry of Culture and Science of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. And our 360-degree platform is an instrument to position and strengthen sustainability, energy, and climate as culturally relevant topics for our regional state, and to establish a statewide network of sustainability managers within the cultural sector. And we want to provide the right support, and our mission is clear. We want to inform, to educate, and to connect people working at the intersection of culture and climate. And therefore, we provide specific information on our website. We educate with online events where experts, for example, share their knowledge on topics such as carbon accounting, climate communication, or sustainable mobility. And we recognize that many already do that work, but in silos. So we really want to engage people and foster connection and exchange. And we also recognize that people in the cultural sector often lack resources like time, money, knowledge, or motivation to implement ideas. And often these circumstances are even more distinctive in rural areas. So with our networking events, we want to inspire climate action and explore ways to implement projects together on a larger scale. And for that, we've seen also that our newsletter, we already reach many people from different places. So we plan to offer a special edition where we provide practical tips on a monthly basis. For example, how to form a sustainability working group, how to separate waste correctly, how to start or write a realistic concept. because we believe these are all easy steps to take towards a more sustainable culture industry where its readers see direct results and stay motivated to take small actions, because we believe that they can also have a great impact over time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And our final speaker for the plenary, Dolores Bass.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us in this amazing and necessary space. I'm Dolores from Care About Climate, and I would love to share with you one of our programs that honestly makes me really proud, which is the NDC Equity Tracker. So just to give you a bit of context, NDCs are basically each country's climate plan under the Paris Agreement. And the thing is, these plans decide a lot about our future, not only whether we stay in line with the Paris Agreement 1.5 degrees goal, but also whether our cultures keep thriving and adapting. Now the NDC Equity Tracker is our youth-led accountability tool. What it means is that young ambassadors look at their own NDCs, and they don't just check the numbers or the targets. They also ask, is gender equity there? Is intergenerational equity and justice considered? So what makes it special is that these ambassadors bring the realities of their communities, their knowledge systems, their equity needs. And that's why we say it's a culture-based project, because it's rooted in lived experience, not only in abstract policy. And actually, it can be called a global Mutirão, as since 2021, we have trained over 150 young people, and together we have already analyzed 72 NDCs, and we keep growing every year. And it's good to mention that it's not only research. The tracker has already shaped consultations in the Dominican Republic and helped make sure youth were recognized in the global stocktake, and even inspired a new international advocacy initiative called the NDC Universal Youth Clause. So we have developed this proposal with the We Are Family Foundation and Groundswell. And the idea is to ask governments to commit to intergenerational justice, collaboration with youth, and climate education directly in the next round of NDCs. And here's the exciting part. Most of countries still have to submit their NDCs, which means there is a real chance to make them more ambitious and inclusive right now. So there's the QR code and the links for you to engage if you want. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. With that, we have come to an end of our rapid fire plenary. Thank you all so much. I hope that all of these pre-existing solutions have sparked ideas, and we're going to use these as inspiration to move forward to developing solutions of our own. But before we do, let's check in with Trisha. How is our live art looking?
Hi, Sonia. Can you hear me?
We can. And Gunjan, if you go to the next slide, everyone, you'll just see that you can switch between tabs. So Gunjan Nanda's screen at the top is the presenter screen, and Trisha's screen at the top is the artist screen. Yes, Trisha, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Perfect. I heard some really amazing conversations out there, and it gave me a lot of inspiration about artism, and took a lot of elements into this illustration. And thank you so much, everyone. That was really cool. I got so many ideas, and I'm just going on with it.
All right, cool. We'll come back to Trisha at the end to see how the artwork is looking. But quick lowdown of what's going to happen. No matter what you selected in the registration, you still have the option to go to whichever breakout group you are most interested in. So on the next slide, we'll quickly go over each of the breakout rooms. The first one is on cultural heritage and the global goal on adaptation. In this group, you'll explore how cultural heritage can strengthen community resilience and adaptation to climate change. You'll discuss how to ensure that cultural heritage is reflected in the global goal on adaptation in the lead up to COP30. It will be facilitated by Darius Xavier Ankama. The second group is on the Marrakesh Partnership and global climate action. So we'll ask, how can we embed culture within the Marrakesh Partnership and its high-level champions processes ahead of its 5-year plan review at COP30? And how can cultural actors gain visibility in UNFCCC global climate action agendas? This will be facilitated by Shamita Harsh. The third group on the next slide is culture as a framework for action for climate empowerment, or ACE. So as many of you might know, ACE advances education, training, public awareness, public participation, and access to information, as well as international cooperation under Article 12 of the Paris Agreement. In this group, you'll discuss how to position culture within the ACE agenda. And this is facilitated by Bhumika Saraswati. The fourth group is strengthening artivism in the lead up to COP30. So we'll ask, how can artivism catalyze climate action on the road to COP30 in Belém? What initiatives and resources do we need? And what are best practices for artivism to mobilize communities and challenge extractive systems? This will be facilitated by Lucia Ishu. And our fifth and final group on the next slide is cross-sectoral collaborations for human and social development, which is the COP30 action plan. So this now recognizes the role of culture under the human and social development agenda. The question we'll discuss is, how can we ensure that culture is not siloed and instead integrated with other priorities of the agenda, like health, education, and food systems? And this is facilitated by Isadora Canella. Big thank you to our facilitators. We will open the breakout groups shortly. Breakout groups are open. We'll take about 15 minutes now, and I'll invite the facilitators to give us an overview of what you discussed in your breakout groups. I'll start with Darius. Are you back now?
Yes, very much back. Yeah, so we had very interesting conversations. I think, as you can see from the board, very filled with a lot of rich conversations. But I think there are quite very interesting submissions. So, for instance, on the first question, we're looking at the challenges that the indicators had during the SBs and why we have to go to COP and probably during the 64th SBs to be able to finalize this. So we looked at how the indicators should be more quantifiable and not being more descriptive so that it is more measurable. And also, Bridget gave a very important submission on how to build capacity. So the capacity building of the primary and the secondary impact of climate change, and how the power of heritage can be used to galvanize community stewardship. So this also feeds back into getting using the process of the bottom-up approach to be able to get the indicators speaking directly to the impact on the ground. And also, Hilary also mentioned building social connections, that which was based on a research that showed how communities that can be able to increase the value of adaptation. So the basic of the adaptation process is for us to be able to build resilience communities. So if we are able to learn from those social connections, the practices, the best practices from the local level, we'll be able to integrate this in the indicators. Then we are able to have very good indicators. And then we also look at the question 2 on best case studies on how to raise awareness in that is different from what we are seeing in the SB negotiations. So aside the negotiations, what are some of the best case studies? We know adaptation is not only for parties or only meant for the COP processes, but there are other stakeholders and actors. So we also spoke about the Culture Declares Emergency, which is a group of culture organizations and individuals that come together to respond to the crisis, the climate crisis. So these are some of the best practices that Nivedita, sorry for butchering your name, also made that submission. And also another best case study was that on the All Living Things Environment Film Festival, which is bringing climate movies to local communities for them to have a general understanding. So it also communicates it contributes to the awareness creation at the local levels and also at the international global levels. Thank you very much. So I think there are other very rich and important submissions on the board.
Lovely, thank you. Shamita, can you go next?
Yes, I can. Thanks, Sanya. I think the way we started our working group was to sort of reorient our understanding of the Marrakesh partnership and start discussing through those two questions to start framing how funding and resource development continues to be a challenge and a restraint, how we can find ways to embed culture exactly in the ways that the COP30 presidency is doing. I think those were very engaging and important, valuable suggestions that came through. I think what I personally loved was for us to continue talking and discussing about how voices from the Global South can be represented, how we continue to build a repository of climate champions, especially from who can pass on indigenous and traditional knowledge, and to really look at how we emphasize culture being a part of high-profile cultural actors and their conversations to continue influencing social trends and lifestyles. I think those were really important suggestions to really reframe our way of looking at sufficiency and sustainable practices when we frame those conversations. I think we also had a lot of discussion around how climate champions and other high stakeholder conversations can be led. How do we expand that table? How do we encourage more perspectives? How do we continue having a resilience strategy to sort of continue documenting these cultural practices through the framework of the Marrakesh Partnership? I think across our working group, we were also navigating our understanding of the partnership and how it feeds into the larger ecosystem of COP processes that can sometimes be hard and opaque to engage with, but definitely do need due recognition and spotlight. And of course, a personal shout out to Storytelling Ways. Yeah, that would be everything. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Bhumika, do you want to tell us what you discussed on ACE?
Sure. I am, yeah, first of all, like a lot of points came from Lydia, Patrick, Sandra, Yoran, and Leila, and everybody else who wrote in detail in our Canva thing. But largely, I think because we were focusing on culture and storytelling, we started with what all, like, especially as Sandra mentioned, what all has failed also in so many ways, what all is not working. And I think it's important to note down what all is not working specifically for certain regions, as it could be local or global, and certain other things on just largely were also, how culture or cultural inputs can not just be used as awareness, but also awareness, participation, and then again awareness, and also linking our question number 1 to 2 as to how can we use culture to also go towards solution in so many ways, was just some of the other things that we spoke about, and also how certain long-term solutions as to planning within certain local spaces. For example, bond was discussed largely as to how could certain long-term plannings really could also work out specific to regions is another thing. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Lucia, why don't you tell us about strengthening artivism?
Hi, everyone. Okay, well, we have a very interesting exchanges with the two questions that we have. We invite to everyone not only to put the information in the Canva, but also participate and share what is the strategies, the alliances, and the work what they are planning to organizing for the COP13. For us, it will be great to share and hear about the Media Ninja Camp for the COP13, who is an invitation, an explanation about what is the work and the art, what they do. Also, I share the perspective of the caravan that we are organizing for land defenders for the Amazon River to go to the COP. So this is amazing to share the perspective. We're going to organize in caravan screenings and activists with the grassroots indigenous leaders who lives in there. Also, another explanation was amazing, talking about how important is to put in the center of the conversation the art in the ordinary days, in the cook, in the ritual of the life. And also it was an amazing perspective for us because it's part of the solutions. The solutions are not necessarily the big strategies, are in the local, are in the grassroots, are in the ground. And for us, it was amazing to hear how I can tell a big story with a picture. I can share the perspective as my people, as an indigenous artist, also as an indigenous people and local communities, Afro, we integrate in our lives, in our existence, the art. And this is one of the most talking points that we have in the conversation. We invite to put in the Canva another of the initiatives that we are working, because for us it's important to share, and also to bring the reminder, the Cultural Pavilion going to have the possibility to join us together during the COP13. It was another amazing thing that we discussed, and also to put and have these conversations in person, trying to bring the local, the grassroots, and the ordinary art solutions, who is basically what we are organizing. I think there is a lot of things that we can read in the Canva. Also, the team and Nanan put the whole information there, but I want to bring these talking points for to have the possibility to join and have the hope what we feel when we have this conversation. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. All right, to wrap us up with the breakout room sharings, Isadora, can you tell us about integration with the Human Social Development Plan?
Yeah, wow, it was amazing time together, and I wish we could be there talking for another 3 hours. A lot of very inspiring comments, and I would love to be in everywhere at the same time. I think I will start from the ending that Catherine started talking about how everyone, every company, every policymaker, everyone knows the importance of culture when they need to sell something. But when the policies come, when the moment of really advocating for bringing culture to the central point, then it's very side-loaded. So how can we discussed a lot on how can we shift this? And Elena brought a very important reminder that actually culture is in everywhere. The separation is already very colonial and imposed. So the idea of culture being something else, it's really reproducing the extractivism, the colonial capitalistic systems that we are actually fighting against. So how can we reconnect and rebridge this lost and connections between, for instance, health systems, architecture, design, food systems, and all the other sciences and all biologies and all the other fields that receive so much more attention in the constellation of COP, but in every policy around the world. So we spoke a lot about bringing evidence-based studies and bridging back these connections and partnerships to understand culture in this holistic approach, but also to have evidence-based results so we can negotiate from the same level, but still keeping the understanding of culture as this bridge. So there's no health system, there's no policies, there's no political systems without culture. This doesn't exist. But how can we bring then this understanding of culture as a bridge as to the centrality of the solutions that can then be also recognized as the power that it has. We also spoke about the importance of having queer people, of having indigenous people, of having grassroots people that are actually dealing in the front line of the climate issues to the front line of the solutions. That I think this is also connected to this understanding of how can we understand and bring culture to the centrality of the solutions that we are proposing. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. It was beyond, would love to keep on it.
All right, thank you. Well, it is such a pleasure to hear all of the solutions that were developed together after we heard solutions in the plenary. So I'll go over some next steps and resources as we wrap up. In the meanwhile, Sam's going to launch a poll in the spirit of the Mutirão, we also want everyone's feedback to make sure that the momentum keeps on going. So please please fill out the poll that you're seeing on screen. This is a survey for us to improve. If you have any feedback, drop it in the chat. We will be saving the chat. Before we leave, we will look at how Trisha has visualized our journey. But first, just a few notes on what we will send to you. So in the coming days, we will send everyone who has registered 4 things. First, the Canva board as your solutions toolkit. Second, a stakeholder map of projects and contacts shared in the plenary. Third, the lovely illustration that Trisha is developing. And fourth, the recording along with key links. And all of what has been discussed feeds directly into our programming and policy push for the Climate Live and Entertainment and Culture Pavilion at COP30 and our broader work. So thank you. This has been tremendously helpful. Trisha, I would love to see what we have so far. Can you tell us a bit more about what you've developed?
Yes. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been inspiring to listen and sketch alongside such meaningful conversations. So I created a lot of illustrations around themes of artivism, the collaboration, the resilience, adding in themes of heritage and culture. I heard a lot of people talking about films and artists in general and how it can bring in more activism in the culture and sustainability space. So I added all of those elements, and you can have a minute to look at it. I'll be taking these themes and adding some more elements into it and grow with all the ideas that came up today. And yes, I'll continue building on this.
Thank you so much, Trisha, and everyone else. I just want to, say that I want to take a moment to pause, breathe, and acknowledge the space that we've created together. And this has been a powerful reminder of what a Mutirão truly is. It is a community coming together to build something greater than the sum of its parts. So no matter the kind of artist and creator you are, your work is evidence that culture is not an add-on, as Rutendo in the opening very rightly pointed out. It is the thread that weaves together our resilience, our relationships, and our responsibility to the future. So I want to thank every single one of you, our facilitators, our interpreters, Trisha, and everybody else, whether you spoke or listened or contributed your voice, for showing up with a lot of heart, honesty, and hope. And from the ENC team, we are deeply grateful to be organizing these things alongside of you. And we look forward to building on this momentum in the months ahead and seeing many of you in Belém at COP30. So let's keep this energy alive.